Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wall Street Hackers, one of the most exciting and popular programs on the Pod TV network. And here's the place that we discuss investments. And to give you an idea of what we're going to also discuss will, of course, be the quotes of the week, the story of the week, Peter's picks, and a panel discussion, all within a 30-minute time frame. So we're going to introduce the person who's the hacker himself, who received a bachelor's degree from UCLA. He also received a law degree from the University of Miami and a master's in business administration from NYU. He spent 17 years on the streets, not homeless. In this case, he was 17 years on the streets, working, learning the investment world, which is unique to everybody in the world, unless you're there on Wall Street itself. And with that, we're going to bring in the hacker himself to let us know the updates of what's going on in the markets, Peter Bennett. Peter,
hey,
welcome to the show.
You love that homeless joke, don't you? But it's pretty good.
Well, yeah.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wall Street Hackers. And another edition, few points. You can catch a new Wall Street Hackers most weeks on Thursdays or Saturdays, depending on your distribution channel. But we're going to take 2 weeks off. And so we'll be back Thursday 3/7 or Saturday 3/9, depending on your distribution channel again. And then probably for the rest of the year, we'll go a long way without any breaks. So the markets, well, the delusional market is, I call it, because I've been saying that for 2.5 years and there's evidence for it, received a jolt on Tuesday when they received, when the CPI numbers came out. And the market went down about 1.5% that day. CPI was a really big blow in my mind to the disinflationary process. Core CPI came in at 0.4%, and that's a number the Fed looks at a lot. And 0.4% times 12, if it's annualized, that's 4.8% annualized. That is so far off the Fed's 2% targets. So what did the market do? Went down about 1.5%, and then the next day, Wednesday, it just went up again 0.5%. It's like, okay, bad news. Let's ignore it. Keep going on. But and the media keeps saying, oh, new highs for the S&P 500. The Dow was recently at new highs, but the realities are very different. First of all, the SPY, which tracks the S&P 500 fund, the SPY was at 471 in December 21, and it was at 498 this morning. So that's 2.5% annualized return over 2.25 years. First of all, you would have been better off with your money in a money market. Second of all, that is a very significant loss against inflation. I haven't really figured out the inflation for that, but it might have been 5%. So you're actually losing money in the market and better off in a money market fund. And also, if you did make 2.5%, there's a decent chance you have to pay some taxes on that, maybe capital gains or other. So this is why we are very cautious on the general market. And of course, a lot of even that 2.5% was driven by the Magnificent Seven tech stocks and some selected energy stocks, some of which we were in. So first point is, this is why stock selection and sector selection is so important, and why we continue to have the same concerns we've had for years. Number one, unemployment is near 50-year record lows. Government spending is totally out of control, and we're in an election year. It's not going to be cut back. And also, especially the unfunded liabilities for Medicare and Social Security and world retirement plans and in other countries, and healthcare for free in many countries with aging demographics. That's going to be a lot of spending in the future. And oil and gas had helped the disinflation in the fall, but now we're back to potentially increasing oil and gas prices, especially into the next summer. But here are two new concerns, at least looking at everything. So, one, inflation expectations may be rising because we've seen a sudden, very large spike in shipping rates. And that was due to two things. One, the increasing tensions in the Red Sea, the Middle East, and two, water levels in the Panama Canal, which are causing problems. So near-term shipping rates have now doubled. The Shanghai to New York container freight benchmark is up 145%, and transit times have increased by about 11 days, which may even affect supplies down the road. But this is a very inflationary factor. And also, in a totally different area, inflation swaps are now saying that inflation has not been beaten, and they're saying that they're pricing in about a 3% rate in terms of the swaps for March. So that's saying that we're not expecting 2% soon. And that's a problem for a delusional market that is, of course, saying, oh, 5 still rate increases, no problem. The problems will come later when there aren't the rate increases, and it'll be a slow, gradual process, is our prediction. So the other thing is, and the bottom line is a few bottom lines. One, inflation is hard to control. We cited a study maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, of 16 countries where inflation and unemployment were in very similar situations. Very low unemployment, reasonably high or high inflation. It took on average about 10 years to bring that inflation down. So hopefully it won't be 10 years, but we're not talking about like, oh, no problem, this is going to be easy, everything will be smooth in the next few months. It'll probably take a long time. So this is why we still see a lot of positive opportunities. It depends where you are. Eventually, Wall Street Hackers is pretty certain rates are going to head towards zero, because governments around the world are going to need it to be zero when all of this debt and unfunded debt for retirement plans, for health plans comes due. These countries are not going to be able to afford to pay interest on that debt. It's going to cause enough problems, just the debt itself and the payments on that. So we're talking about yield curve control down the road, but maybe 5 to 7 years. So probably a long, slow decrease rate in rates, and then eventually they're going to have to just keep bringing it down. But by then the economy will have to be slower. So quotes of the week. I have 2 quotes from Sunday's Barron's. Number 1, Society General strategist Albert Edwards observes that the U.S. tech sector is worth a third of the total U.S. equity market, topping the previous peak seen in July 2000, which was the height of the dot-com bubble. We know what happened there. That's a very high level, over a third. Number 2 quote, Tavi Costa of Crescent Capital, which is he's a hedge fund manager, showed a market capitalization for Microsoft now at the world's most valuable company at $3.1 trillion. That alone was nearly twice the size of the entire S&P 500 energy sector, which is around $1.6 trillion. In terms of annual free cash flow, Microsoft has an estimated $67 billion, which is less than half the $135 billion from these energy companies. So we're talking about double the valuation and half the cash flow. Now, I am very uncertain about tech and very cautious about it. I've been in and out, but I just heard an analyst today say, and this is probably true, they said the tech sector has built in 10 years of projected growth. But the point she was making, and also I agree, is, do we really sure we're going to have 10 years of very strong growth? Because it's built into the prices. So you have to be very cautious, and we will see. But in general, Wall Street Hackers strongly prefers companies that have strong cash flows, nice income or decent income, and likely growing valuations and growing cash flows anyway. So that's where we go on our investments. Okay, 5 most interesting stories of the week. This is a very, obviously everybody's heard about this story, but there's a lot of interesting points. So the Justice Department recently found President Biden's memory was somewhat lacking. Here is at least 4 interesting points. One, what the report actually said. Here's a quote. It said, "We have also considered that at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury as he did during our interview, as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory." That's a quote. And they went on to say, based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone for whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him, because a serious felony requires a mental state of willfulness. This is the president of the United States they're talking about. Number 2, most interesting point. House Republicans are now requesting that the Justice Department release full transcripts of Special Counsel Robert Hur's interviews with President Biden. 3, the Justice Department it will be very interesting to see what they do, may resist releasing these transcripts, but that could be difficult for them to do on one side because the House is saying, well, it's part of our impeachment inquiry. But I don't know. Are they just going to just give these transcripts up? And most importantly, maybe it could be a very close election, probably between President Biden and President Trump. I mean, nothing's decided 100%. But whether or not these transcripts are released, whether these papers are released, could have a huge impact on the election, and also whether their release could also have a big impact on whether the Democrats choose another presidential nominee or if they go with President Biden. So there's a lot riding on these papers. It will be interesting what the Justice Department does. Interesting story number 2. New Gallup polls show that 66% of Black adults are now identifying as Democrat or Democratic leaning, and 19% Republican. And that's a very marked change from 2020, when 77% of Blacks identified as Democrats and 11% as Republicans. You could even see the stronger with Hispanics. 47% are now, only 47% are identifying as Democrats or Democratic leaning, with 35% identifying as Republicans. And by the way, some of those people may not be willing to admit they're Republican because there is a tendency to do that for independents to really be thinking more on the Republican lines. But just 3 years ago, 57% of Hispanics identified as Democrats and 26% as Republican. By the way, there's been no change with white Americans. 54%, the same as 2020, are Democrat or Democratic leaning. Now, there are theories about why this could be. Nobody can, can prove anything. But the theory that I think might make sense is illegal immigration is having a unique effect on these two groups. First of all, the 4 states that have the highest percentage of Hispanic populations are the border states of Mexico: Texas, California, New Mexico, and Arizona. There's a lot of people being affected by illegal immigration in those states, and they're seeing it firsthand. Also, 60% of Black Americans live in 10 states that have the largest cities in the country. And many people are feeling in these cities, and everybody in these cities is feeling the effect of illegal immigrants too. So it's possible that illegal immigration is the cause of this. Interesting story number 3. So now Texas is on track to build more wall, Donald Trump's, quote, infamous wall, than the president's own administration put up. Greg Abbott just said, quote, "Texas is the first and only state in the history of the United States to build our own border wall." And Texas, by the way, has built an additional, not counting the wall, 160 miles of barriers, including razor wire, anti-climb barriers, and buoys in the river. So they are doing a lot in Texas, and the Biden administration has been fighting them all the way. Interesting story number 4. A cyborg is born. The future is here. It's been here. It's amazing what's going on. The first human to receive an implant from Neuralink is recovering well, according to Elon Musk, marking the latest milestone for the emerging brain-computer interface industry. The interfaces are aimed at helping people with traumatic injuries like paralysis, but if all goes well, hope extend Musk hopes to extend this to hearing and vision loss, and eventually to merge humans with artificial intelligence. You never know with Elon Musk, but that's quite a goal. His quote was, Neuralink enables control. It's called telepathy. And it says it enables control of your phone or computer and through them almost any device just by thinking. Initial users will be those who have lost the users of limbs. And he said, imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or auctioneer. That's the goal. The future keeps coming. So finally, for Valentine's Day, 3 interesting facts about single Americans. Number 1, roughly 6 in 10 young men defined as 18 to 29 are being single, 63%. The good news for those who don't root for single men is by age 30 to 49, only 25% are single. It could be because of the internet and games, and it also could be because of financial situations. Those are just theories. Number 2, the majority of all of those singles adults are not even interested in being in a relationship, or even many of them are not even looking to date. So there's a lot of people, that's 57%, by the way, who say they're not even interested. It's like, I don't know what they're doing, but it's not that. Focused on other things, whatever. And number 3, nearly half of single and looking adults, those who are looking, turned to online dating in the past year. 45% of single Americans who are searching for a relationship have used online dating platforms within the past year. So I guess for those who are looking, online is definitely an avenue. We'll take a quick advertisement and we'll be back with our panel discussion and our dividend stock of the week. See you soon.
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Culiet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252.
So what to do? As always, we've been saying this for years. First, own energy and pipelines like MPLX, which has done phenomenally. We've been recommending it for years. You can look at it, pull it up. I mean, we were recommending it under 20 at 23. And EPD, which is not quite as large an allocation, but we think it really places to get high yields, safe returns. And energy generally, like KRP we mentioned too, as an example. Also, whatever allocation you do have to stocks, you should definitely own dividend stocks. Our favorite chart, 50 years of history showed that dividend stocks outperformed the S&P 500 over 50 years to 2022 by double and triple for growth, dividend growth stocks and initiators. And be very careful because sector selection is going to be very important going forward. And the market, anything can happen. I'm still predicting a flattish market for the year. Maybe up a little, maybe down a bunch, but it could also tank if tech starts rolling over. And I saw somebody on CNBC today saying that and a couple of people saying they're pulling out of tech because they're taking some profits, and who knows, but that's been holding up the market. So who knows what'll happen there. Dividend pick of the week, first disclosures. Of course, no guarantees, there never is. Only our opinion. The show is for entertainment only. Consult your financial advisor. So I'm going back to SCHD. I recommend about 0.5% allocation to this, but I'm moving it up to actually 4% in our model portfolio. And it is the Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity ETF. There's a lot I like about this. Footnote, I was going to talk about Amazon, but I went in, now I'm out. It may be good. Well, I'll talk about tech soon. I just don't like uncertainty. So we'll see. But the beta on these tech stocks is phenomenal. So if the market does go down, it'll be a lot. So this week, again, I'm getting back to SCHD, much larger allocation. I like it for a lot of reasons. One is it's a dividend stock diversifier. Our model portfolio doesn't have a lot of financials, industrials, healthcare, info technology, and SCHD is a very nice dispersion of in terms of the allocations. And also, I like what they didn't go into. I'm not big on utilities, although I have one big one, which I'll get into one of these weeks. And also consumer discretionary. So I think they've been good. Their history has been very good. They have their dividend yield is right now 3.5%. But if you look at their history, in 2014, they were paying 24 cents a quarter. In December 2018, 40 cents. In December 24, 74 cents. So in about 10 years, you basically tripled your dividend. So if it continues that, I'll take from 3.5 going to 10, not to mention the appreciation that'll go with that. It also has very nice figures built into the portfolio. The cash flow is price over cash flow is around 11, which is a 9% cash flow yield. And even though we've been in a somewhat tough environment, sales growth, according to E-Trade, is up 5.7%. So overall, it seems like a good place to be for the long run. And when I say the long run, I say it will fluctuate with the market. And if the market starts reacting more to higher rates for longer, it may go down. But in the long run, our theory is, and I'm pretty sure this, rates are going down to zero probably in 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, as the United States and the world wrestles with huge unfunded liabilities and uses what's called yield curve control to bring it down. So at some point, this could do very well if interest rates do start dropping. It may take a few years or it may take months, but eventually they're going to drop, very likely. Panel discussion of the week. We have to really keep it moving now because we're trying to keep it in that half-hour slot. Hey, Nick. So the question is, should the U.S. be doing anything different with regard to China? Background. Back in 1972, President Nixon began opening relations with China. The plan was to integrate China into the world economy and politically, and this would increase world prosperity and also avoid war. In the 1990s, Goldman Sachs helped China create a form of modified capitalism. And that has been proven obviously to be economically successful. Thank you, Goldman Sachs. Right now, there are forecasts that China by 2040 or even 2035 may overtake the U.S. as the world's largest economy in terms of size. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to be wealthier overall because they have a lot of people, but still, that is a major change. By the way, India may also surpass the U.S. economy, but a lot of those projections aren't until 2050 or even beyond. The U.S. investors, meanwhile, are helping China's growth. They're funding it. Last week, we discussed that powerful venture capitalists are putting billions into Chinese tech companies, startups. Thank you, venture capitalists. U.S. corporations, meanwhile, have been helping China grow for years. Thank you, for example, Apple and Nike. On the other hand, though, China is now struggling with potential what's called Japanification, which means basically slow growth, stagnation, and financial stress. And everybody thought Japan would basically rule the world economically decades ago. And they hit this period of very low growth and financial stress. So right now, the Chinese property market in particular has problems. They've been in a prolonged downturn since February 2023, and it could cause a financial crisis, and also that would have world spillover effects. The Chinese home prices just fell in December 23, the worst it's fallen in 9 years. So that's not looking good. China also has extremely negative demographics. Unfortunately, the world does, but China even worse. So aging populations are not good for the economy, for the market, and especially when countries around the world, including China and so many other countries and the United States, have unfunded liabilities for healthcare, free healthcare in most countries, and mostly free in the United States, and also unfunded or underfunded retirement plans. So there's a lot going on. Nick, question of the week is, should the U.S. be doing anything different with regard to China?
Well, I think we're going to have to keep our eye on China because of what you just said. It's a big economy, faster growing than the United States. I think their projected GDP growth was a little over 5% this year, which is low for them because they've been
low for them, yeah.
And we're at 3%. So actually, we're kind of made up some ground with that, but they're still growing at a faster rate. Interesting article in the Wall Street Journal the other day was America doesn't build any ships, and China is taking over the shipbuilding business. So most of your containers that you were talking about and the ships that are moving around the world will be made in China. But China has been taking over manufacturing for decades. In other words, they're the
exactly
of the world. We still manufacture airplanes through Boeing, and of course, Airbus in Europe are two of the biggest leaders right now in the aerospace industry. But when you come to a lot of industries right now, manufacturing is in China. Now, India is competing with China with low-cost labor, and so are some of the other smaller companies around, smaller countries around the area. But China is still the big dragon of the economic engine of the world.
No doubt about it. And exactly, keeping an eye on China is the least we should do. So here's my conclusions. One, yes, we should be doing things differently, very likely. China has been too hostile to the U.S., militarily, openly militarily, and in terms of their tone. They're needlessly aggressive and working in many ways to undercut the United States in terms of alliances and other issues. So why would we be helping them? I mean, it's one thing to go to war, but it's another thing to say, okay, we're not going to be helping them as much as we need because we don't need to. The U.S. should start to decouple faster and faster away from China because the policy of integration with the world has not worked. It's been decades and decades. So why deal with it? The U.S. could make it more difficult to invest in China. The U.S. could encourage more manufacturing, which is doing to a point now, semiconductors, for instance, to move away from China to allies or the United States. And so we would be less dependent either on China or even other countries. Donald Trump recently proposed a 10% plan to tariff all goods. Very controversial for many people, but basically the argument for it would be that many countries, not just China, provide unfair indirect subsidies to their economies. They prohibit U.S. goods in many ways, especially China. And even the VAT tax system really offers advantages to those countries and disadvantages to the United States. So I don't know if the 10% number is right. And I don't even know if that's the right thing to do. But I do know that the United States needs to look at this issue more and focus on the important issues, not the little squabbles that are going on politically, because we spend so much time on that. We need to focus on the big pictures, deficits on China, and we need a longer-term strategic planning. So we are very short in time now because we're going a half an hour show. We can't go to 35 anymore. We have to say thanks for watching Wall Street Hackers. We'll be back around March 7th or March 9th, depending on your distribution channel, with new shows that week. As Kim always says, get healthy, get wealthy, and we'll see you around March 7th. Bye, Nick.
See you there.